There was a lot of optimism surrounding the potential of the Minnesota Vikings this season, but there appears to be a cloud hanging over the team of late. We're just 2 weeks into the season. They've already lost their starting quarterback in Teddy Bridgewater. Then Sunday night against the Packers, Adrian Peterson tore his meniscus in his right knee. Vikings head coach Mike Zimmer, who said a timetable for Peterson's return is uncertain at this point. He did not rule out Peterson playing this week, though. He said the team is looking at several options. In the meantime, the Vikings are still basking in the glow of their victory over the Packers and the excellent play of quarterback Sam Bradford in his first start for the team. Max, I cannot believe I'm asking this, but could this Peterson injury actually be good for Sam Bradford?
And I can't believe I'm saying this, but the answer is yes. Unequivocally, it could be good for Bradford. The answer is yes. Look, Adrian Peterson, I don't think is as bad as he's looked in the first 2 games of this season. Because in the first 2 games of this season, he has fewer yards per carry than anyone since the merger over a 2-game stretch. Think about that for a second among people who had enough carries to qualify over the 2-game stretch. Fewest yards since the merger. Now, do I think that means that Peterson has fallen off the cliff and that I'm predicting for Tom Brady that happened to Kobe Bryant and Derek Jeter and Peyton Manning? No, I'm not ready to say that if he's healthy, because I saw Adrian Peterson last year run the ball extremely well. And I assumed at the time it's because they were run blocking well. They couldn't pass protect, but they could run block. But maybe not. So far this year, their run blocking has regressed. It's really not good. Their pass protection has gotten better. I'm not saying it's good, but it has progressed, not regressed. So if your pass protection is better, your run blocking is worse, you have an old running back who is in decline, because even last year, Peterson wasn't quite what he once was. And this year, he certainly hasn't been that. I mean, it's not all run blocking when you're averaging the fewest yards per carry since the merger. Then, yes, it can absolutely be detrimental, particularly because, Stephen A., Adrian Peterson is a legend, a future Hall of Famer, in the argument for greatest running back ever in his prime. I mean, he's in the argument. He was an absolute phenomenon. But look at and I'm not saying he's at the very end of his career, but by way of example, Kobe Bryant's last season, a high-volume scorer who wasn't good anymore but was a legend. Was that good or bad for the team? Derek Jeter, a front-of-the-order hitter who played a very important defensive position, who wasn't good anymore but was used a lot, because when you hit at the front of the order, you get more at-bats, etc., may have stopped the Yankees from making the playoffs that year, the last year of Jeter's career. Only the second time in his career they missed the playoffs. There's a real danger when a legend declines in the team overusing him and therefore making everybody else worse. And Adrian Peterson and the Vikings are now in that position, particularly considering the way that offensive line is playing, Stephen A. So I can't believe I'm saying it, but the answer is yes. This could be good for Bradford and the Vikings.
Well, I can't believe you're saying it because you can't believe it. And the fact of the matter is you shouldn't believe it because it's false. It's simply not true. When you look at Adrian Peterson and what he brings to the table, it doesn't matter that he had 19 yards on 12 carries. It doesn't matter about his age or attrition. It matters. What matters most is the aura, the specter of what he's capable of based on his history of illustrious play. You're talking about the leading rusher in football, somebody who has defied Father Time and defied insurmountable odds to be as great as he is. When you walk into a stadium and Adrian Peterson is in that backfield, you are worried to death. You recognize that this is an individual that you've got to pay attention to, that you've got to watch. Being concerned about that allows you to stuff the line of scrimmage, to suffocate the gaps, and ultimately frees your quarterback up to throw downfield, which is what Sam Bradford did, catching the Packers by surprise and looking so great in doing so by connecting with Stephon Diggs, whose coming out party was this past Sunday night. Without Adrian Peterson, all of that changes because you don't have a running back that requires that kind of attention and that kind of a threat. As a result, you're able to fall back into coverage. By falling back into coverage, you're able to defend receivers a bit better. And more importantly, you're forcing Sam Bradford to do things he's never historically done with any degree of consistency or success. Sam Bradford is a starting quarterback in this league walked into Sunday night's game with a record of 25, 37, and 1. Obviously, now it's 26, 37, and 1. He had 3 strong games to close out the season for the Philadelphia Eagles last year, which is what got him a new 36-year deal over 2 years before he started crying, before he was on a mission to cry his way out of Philadelphia because they moved up in the draft to acquire Carson Wentz. So even though we saw Sam Bradford, even though I will openly admit he is a significant upgrade as a passer to Teddy Bridgewater, the fact that you don't have Adrian Peterson essentially puts you in a position where you're Sam Bradford and a top 5 defense in the NFL in the Minnesota Vikings are going to be your recipe for success because they're going to stop opposing offenses. It's going to give you more of an opportunity to get at opposing defenses if you're Sam Bradford. And maybe, just maybe, that might happen. But it's a huge maybe, and there is nothing to definitively say that Sam Bradford, or rather Adrian Peterson's absence, is a good thing, because without Adrian Peterson, this is Sam Bradford in St. Louis. This is Sam Bradford in Philadelphia. And how the hell has that worked out? That's the way that I look at it.
Well,
I
look,
don't see it as a good thing
of
at all.
course
They could overcome it. They could overcome it, but I don't see it as a good thing.
You can't say definitively because we don't have the evidence yet. But I'll tell you this. If Adrian Peterson continues to average 1.6 yards a carry, they ain't going to have to pay that much attention to him. And even if they do have to continue paying attention to him, you keep giving him the ball a lot, it's going to be bad. This comes to the clip. You're saying the threat of the legend outweighs the overuse of the legend. I think it's not the case anymore. I mean, Peterson's not. It's not just not blocking for him. He's not running the ball well.
You're misrepresenting my position. You're misrepresenting my position. I'm not talking about the overuse. I'm saying even Adrian Peterson there as a decoy significantly helps Sam Bradford, because even if he was averaging, let me tell you this, Max, it's week 3. Adrian Peterson never got hurt Sunday night. He's averaging 1.6 yards a carry. You walk into the game. Who does Minnesota have on its schedule this week?
Panthers.
Carolina. You walk into the game against Carolina, and Adrian Peterson is in that backfield, averaging 1.9 yards a carry. You're telling me that Ron Rivera and that Panthers defense isn't up on their toes, ready, watching, and you know, for what Adrian Peterson might bring at them? No. He's been too great for too long not to pay attention to him, and that is what would help Sam Bradford.
I'm saying it's an unforgiving league, the NFL, and without the guarantee in the contracts like in the other leagues, and because it's so physical, you can go from hero to zero quickly. In other words, by week 3, will they be paying a lot of attention to him? Will they be nervous, just the threat of his presence there? Yeah, maybe still. But at a certain point this season, if he can't get the job done, that'll go away. It doesn't matter who you are in the NFL or what you've done. They will clock you, they will watch film, and if you can't get it done anymore, the threat goes away. It doesn't take that long.
Max, I'm sorry, but respectfully, I have to say to you that argument makes no sense. And I'm going to tell you why. Because, again, we're talking about Sam Bradford. When we ask the question, is losing Adrian Peterson a good thing, one must take into account what you have to replace him. And I'm not even talking about a running back. I'm talking about a Laquan Treadwell. I'm talking about a Stephon Diggs. I'm talking about a Kyle Rudolph. I'm talking about that offensive line. I'm talking about whatever running back you have to replace him. And most importantly, I'm talking about what is Sam Bradford going to do without the luxury and the cushion of having somebody like Adrian Peterson to say, I'm going to give this ball to him. What are y'all going to do about it? If nothing else, Max, it's going to force defenders to come up and pay attention, which is less people downfield, which is more room for Sam Bradford to operate.
It's, I think Stephon Diggs, you correctly identified, is the breakout offensive player on this team, the most dangerous offensive player on the team, and that may include Adrian Peterson, even if he's healthy, depending on how Peterson's season would have progressed without injury, let alone with injury. But here's a very simple formula for you. You have a team whose line is getting better at protecting the passer, and the passer is better than what you've had, at least in the short run, in terms of throwing the ball down the field, and young receivers are coming into their own. So, in other words, the passing game is improving. versus the run blocking, which has been terrible, and the running back behind that run blocking has been historically bad. It gives me no pleasure to say it. I'm just going by a 2-game stretch, yards per carry since the merger. So given those set of facts, is it better to throw the ball more or run the ball more? Is it better for the quarterback if a legend there may be some pressure to hand him the ball who's not being productive isn't there, or that he is there? Which is better for the quarterback?
And my response to that would be a question. Are we talking about a class in football or football? Because if you're talking about a class, you make absolute sense. I need to get my pad and pencil, take notes, and listen to Matt break down the X's and O's of football.
I've won another one.
But I'm sorry, I'm sorry, Max. I thought we were talking about actual football, not football class. Because if we're talking about actual football, I get to lean on what I have seen from Sam Bradford to make the argument that your logic makes no sense, Spock Kellerman. It makes no sense whatsoever.
Because you're being quite illogical, Stephen A.
You're ignoring Sam Bradford's history. You're ignoring it.
Actually, Sam Bradford, the one thing he's always done well is throw the ball down the field. He's done that pretty well.
Well, Max, wait a minute. But he's also not done it well, because we've seen plenty of instances when it's worked, and even more when it hasn't. The man has never even had a winning record in his NFL career.
Well,
what are you talking about?
We're talking about a specific component of his game, but he also
I'm talking about results.
Right? He hasn't been on good teams. Has he? Look, Sam Bradford is another one. Kirk Cousins, you can say this about. You can say this about Jay Cutler. The league has a ton of starting caliber quarterbacks who are on the bottom half of the league. Low average or a little bit worse quarterbacks. Sam Bradford, throughout his career, has fit into that category. Does he have strengths and weaknesses? Yes. One of his strengths is throwing the ball down the field. Does he have some targets now? Yes.
So when Sam Bradford was in St. Louis and everybody was bragging about their defense and they still were not winning games, he had nothing to do with that?
No, he was a young quarterback who was injury-prone when he was on the field. As I just described what he was on the field, a low-average quarterback when he was on the field. And,
well, what I'm saying
and if you have a great defense,
but if he's a low-average quarterback, but if you're a low-average quarterback, how do you benefit from Adrian Peterson not being there?
Well, how do you benefit? How do you benefit?
It's illogical. It makes no sense.
How do you bet? You can't call me Spock on the one hand and then say I'm illogical on the other. How do you benefit from handing the ball a lot to a running back that's getting you under 2 yards a carry?
Well, to answer your first question, I call you Spock because of your attempt to be logical. And I'll have that gloss over reality. That's number one. And number two, again, I'm saying to you, Adrian Peterson, when healthy, is the elite running back in all of football.
No.
And you're going to sit here and try to make the argument that Sam Bradford is better off without him?
Adrian Peterson was better than Le'Veon Bell when they were both on the field last year? No. He's not better than Le'Veon Bell. Adrian Peterson hasn't been the best running back in football in a couple years, Stephen A. And I told you this was the last year he would still be Adrian Peterson, and I may have been off by 1 year. Adrian Peterson might already be gone.
Well, hold on. I'm a Steelers fan, and you brought up Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell had Big Ben Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown and Martavis Bryant and Heath Miller at the time, etc. Adrian Peterson had a suspect offensive line with Teddy Bridgewater as his quarterback who couldn't throw downfield. And you want to compare the two? Be my guest. We can have that debate another day.
All right, guys,
we could do that.
Sure.
We could do that.
We got to leave it there. The silver lining for this Vikings team, though, is that they have the 5th-ranked defense in the league.